All right, everyone, today is the big day. Of course, we start off with an admonition for any clankers that happen to be in New Hampshire. Please brave the weather, although it's a little bit better than what it was in Iowa, and go and vote for Donald Trump in the GOP primaries. Gotta wear my MAGA hat for a reason. My full-throated endorsement here. His opponent is insane, number one. We know how he'll govern, number two. He's actually got a track record. We can apply that litmus test and see that generally speaking his was a successful presidency. We haven't seen one in a few years now, you may have noticed. If his opponent is insane, and he's the only one at this point that's got a shot of winning against Joe Biden, who is presumptively going to be nominated, although he's having some problems in New Hampshire himself with a write-in campaign, because he's not officially on the ballot. There's a write-in campaign for Biden. I have a feeling he might come in below expectations, by the way. Then Trump is the only option. There's nobody else in the field other than Nikki Haley, and Nikki Haley's just a Bushite neocon who wants to start World War III. Well, I'd just as soon not. You know, again, all that fallout might make my vegetables glow in the dark, but, you know, then when you die of cancer when you're 40, there's definitely a trade-off there. Just do it. Go out and vote for Donald Trump. We know that he will actually attempt to solve the border crisis, which right now is metastasizing day by day. You've now got 10,000 plus people crossing the border illegally on a daily basis. That's unsustainable, just to be clear. It's millions of people every year. It's number one. Foreign diplomacy. We saw that Trump was capable of reigning over a period of time in which there were no new wars being started or enjoined by the United States. The handful of times that strikes were conducted, I condemned them, although I could understand the meaning. At the very least, you know, strategically speaking, logistically, under Donald Trump, they actually matter. Right now, Biden's just taking pot shots at the Houthis for absolutely no reason. And now you've got a meeting with Ukraine. They said, well, we've run out of money to give you. We're real sorry about that, but we had to divert so many funds to Israel to continue their putsch in Gaza. So I'm sorry, Zelensky, but yeah, it's just not there. We've got crime still high, although the Biden admin, for some reason, has decided to start to message about, well, crime rates are down. Okay, well, they're still at a multi-decade high. The fact that they're very slightly lower than the prior year doesn't really mean a whole lot. It's not really the Biden administration that's tackling the problem anyway, so he's not interested in it. Then you've still got sticky Bidenflation. The Fed expected probably to raise rates again multiple times. They're claiming that we've hit our soft landing, but I go grocery shopping mostly for myself. I see the Bidenflation there as opposed to a few years ago. I can see it myself every single time I go to the store, so I'm not taken in by the Americans are starting to sweeten on Bidenomics sort of thing. Not seeing it. I'm not seeing that particular sentiment anywhere outside of maybe gated communities or the MSNBC audience. Here's the thing, though. I expect Trump to win. It requires turnout, of course. Trump fans can go to the polls. If you're a Nikki Haley fan, you know, maybe you feel a little bit fluish today. Maybe you stay home. It's too important for everyone not to turn out to vote, though. Again, because the alternative is a war-hawking neocon. It would take the Republican Party back 20 years to a very dark place, and it's just not necessary. It'd take it back to the Bush administration years, and I don't think that's what sane people want at the moment. But in new polling, here's the good news. Trump has soared ahead. He's now in the mid to upper 50s. In some polls, he's leading by more than 20 points. I expect him to win. I just want that margin to be as high as possible, because I have a sneaking suspicion Haley's going to be watching the results. I don't think she expects to win. She's looking at what the gap between her and Trump is. If it's lower than expected in the single digits or something, she'll say, well, we beat the polls, so I'm not going anywhere. Onwards to South Carolina, because the Nevada primary/caucus is a hot mess, and nobody's really campaigning there for that reason. You've got an unsanctioned primary with most of the candidates not on it. Then you have a sanctioned caucus in which Trump is going to run away with it probably by a 60-point gap or something, so it's not really competitive. She'll be going into her home state, and she'll be campaigning like a mad woman. And then, I mean, it's interesting for me because then I get one more solid live stream before inevitably she drops out anyway because she clearly is not going to win South Carolina. For me, it would be good if Nikki Haley comes in 5-6 points behind Trump and stubbornly decides not to leave. That would be good for me as a streamer. But it'd be bad for the country because then now you've got multiple more weeks in which money that could be raised for the general election is being raised for a failed primary, which would be Nikki Haley's campaign specifically. Let's put this away as quickly as possible. Give Trump the victory by more than a 15-point gap, and I think that Nikki Haley drops. And in polling, it's like a 50-50 as to whether that happens. I expect him to win by double digits. It's just a matter of what margin it is. And there's always the possibility of a late surge for Nikki Haley among voters that are unregistered. It's an open primary state. So all hands on deck, it's time to go and do your very, very basic duty of literally filling out a piece of paper. It takes you 5 minutes. If that's all that you've done, at least you've done your duty on primary night. Of course, we saw Dixville Notch earlier. 6 people voted. They all voted for Nikki Haley. Nobody took a Dem ballot. I think that the Dem turnout is going to be massively depressed in New Hampshire. I'm also getting a few bits of news from certain wards, from people on the ground there, that turnout appears to be depressed. And in those areas, though, they're the left-leaning areas, actually. They're the areas where you expect more people to take a Dem ballot. Well, if turnout is suppressed there, I guess that Nikki Haley is not necessarily getting anything out of that. And the Democrats right now are biting their nails. We'll also be watching the Dem primary results because, again, that primary is not sanctioned by the DNC. New Hampshire decided it did not want to wait for South Carolina. They intended to stick with their normal schedule. And because the Democrats shifted it around in order to favor South Carolina because they think it's more of an important state. It's more like New Hampshire leans fairly blue. South Carolina leans slightly red, but they think they can pick it off, and so they wanted to give him a big gift. And also a gift to Biden because, of course, he won South Carolina. He lost New Hampshire during the primaries the last time around, so they decided to snub New Hampshire entirely. I'm optimistic. I think that there's basically 100% chance Trump wins. It's really about the gap of victory, and I'm hoping that it's a big one. If we could hit 20 points, that would be money. Nikki Haley will fuck off under a bus at that point. I think that she'll probably withdraw her candidacy, which would be good. And then it's onwards to the general election. The Dems will still kind of sort of be duking it out, and the Republicans will finally be able to get their ass in order. That's about all. Peace out.